Hello and welcome back to UIE TV channel. Please subscribe our channel to get further videos automatically in your inbox.
Ishaq Mostefaoui, British student who joined Islamic State killed in Syrian prison. Ishaq Mostefaoui told Sky News last year he was part of IS and had been in the prison since March 2019.
I was within the Islamic State, living under the Islamic State, yeah.
At your own choice?
Yeah.
And what do you think of Daesh, of the Islamic State now?
Well, now it's over. It's done. It's over and done with. And we're here, with a fractured skull and wanting to go out to another, go back to what we've done before. And we've been here for the last 9 months not knowing about our families.
But do you believe in what Daesh stands for?
No. They've done a lot of mistakes, and life is a lesson curve. It's a learning curve, like we say.
They cut people's heads off in Raqqa.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Were you involved with that?
No, not at all.
Did you see that happening?
No. I was not involved in that, and we condemn all the crimes and oppression that they actually did to the people here.
On the horizon in this northeastern corner of Syria, the Islamic State lives on. This is a place that should trouble governments around the world. Behind a single fence in Al-Hol camp are people who will rebuild their cult if they can. It was supposed to be temporary, a holding centre for the women and the children of ISIS. And yet it endures, squalid and insecure, and no one knows what to do with them. To go in, we're told to take all precautions. We will not be welcome. The armed guards, who don't want to be identified, tell us about the stabbings and several murders. We're on our way to the camp annex, where the foreigners are held, 10,000 of them.
Oh. Throwing stones already.
The makeshift market area is the only place the staff are comfortable taking us in this part of the camp.
Where are you from?
It is a chance for a few snatched conversations.
Can we talk to you?
No.
You're from Australia?
I really don't want to talk to you, sorry.
I'm Rusi.
Where?
Rusi.
From Russia. So what's your name?
Yusuf.
And where are you from?
Finlandi.
Finland.
So much in this place is deeply unsettling. Waves are met with nothing. Those natural instincts of a child, they're not here. Instead, this. A young boy asks us to repent our sins, and then... And how do you heal a mind like that? The point is, here, no one is even trying. In Al-Hol, radicalized mothers are with children who've seen no other life.
Where are you from?
I'm Islam.
Huh?
I'm from the Islamic State.
Yeah, but where were you from before?
I'm from the Islamic State.
Have you heard about al-Baghdadi?
Huh?
Al-Baghdadi.
Dawlat al-Baqiya, Dawlat al-Islam Baqiya. Allahu Akbar.
They are angry and yet emboldened by the news of the death of ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi last month.
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi has been killed. Another one comes. And if this one is killing, another one will come. And another one. It's like this.
Do you still believe in the ideology of Daesh?
Yes, of course. Of course. Why it would change? Look how they treat us here. Just like animals, just like dogs.
You treated others like animals.
Yeah.
Daesh cut people's heads off. They burnt people alive. No, is this not true?
This is in the Quran.
Sorry?
Okay, this is in the Quran.
There are 70,000 people here now. It is a town, not a camp. There is no school. Aid agencies struggle to operate because of the security. Healthcare is at its most basic.
The camp authorities say that further radicalization is taking place in the camp all the time. This is the market area. At one stage, years ago, it was an existing refugee camp. Now those refugees who are here who fled ISIS are mixing with the ISIS women. Essentially, a new mini caliphate is being created. Is your baby?
I have 2 children.
You have 2 children?
Yes.
Sonia Kadiri from Italy was one we found who did appear repentant.
Do you understand why the Italian government would think you are a danger? If
Yeah, I know. Because I come in Daesh, I stay in Daesh 3 years, but I go out Daesh from 2 years. I'm 2 years in the camp.
So you don't believe the ideology of Daesh anymore?
No, I don't know.
But is this genuine, or would she be a threat back home? Again, no one is making the judgment. The gesture is genuinely Islamic, the oneness of God. But here in Al Hol, it's been warped and twisted. ISIS is rising again. Mark Stone, Sky News in Syria. In the northern Syrian town of Qamishli this week, 3 car bombs in a single day. At least 5 people died, more than 20 were injured. For the Kurds who've spent half a decade fighting ISIS on the West's behalf, there is no doubt this was the work of Islamic State sleeper cells. The organisation is making a comeback that threatens us all. General Mazloum Kabani is the most senior official in this Kurdish region of Syria, an ally of the West and a man who now feels let down. He told Sky News that Turkey's recent incursion into the area is undoing everything he and the Western coalition have achieved.
The danger of the resurgence of ISIS is very big, and it's a serious danger. I think there are many people who don't know this, but it's true. The Turkish aggression opened the space and provided hope for ISIS members, and the cities that Turkey entered will be a base for ISIS to reform itself.
And he made an extraordinary allegation against a NATO member country. He claimed that not only was Turkey allowing ISIS to return, it is encouraging it.
So this is a very serious allegation. You're suggesting that a NATO member is actively encouraging ISIS to return to an area that you and the coalition removed them from. Is that right?
Yes, it's a big allegation and there's evidence of it. Many people know it, not just ISIS members but also former members of al-Nusra and al-Qaeda fighters who we fought against in 2013 and 2014.
The Turkish government says such claims are preposterous. But footage like this, filmed in northern Syria, is, say the Kurds, proof that Islamist jihadists are fighting alongside the Turkish army. And in the middle of all the fighting are the prisoners of the Islamic State, held by Kurdish guards who admit they can't do this for much longer.
What's your message to the governments of Europe?
We repeatedly told them they have 2 choices: to take back their prisoners and put them on trial, if they can do so, or to set up an international court here, because we can't hold them forever.
Has either of those plans got any traction? No. So is there a risk that we could see further ISIS spectacular attacks in the West as a consequence of inaction, indecision by the West in your region?
This is possible. It's one of the expected things that may happen in the future. We don't know the fate of these prisoners in Syria, and the balance here has changed.
As we spoke, helicopters outside. The Americans, he told me, they didn't really leave as Donald Trump had claimed, but their mission here now is confused. And while it is, ISIS, he says, is reforming. Mark Stone, Sky News.
A British student who travelled to Syria to join the Islamic State, group has been killed in the prison where he was being held. Sky News understands that Ishaq Mostefaoui, 27, was killed during a disturbance at the Sina'a prison in the northeastern Syrian town of Hasakah within the last 2 weeks. Mostefaoui, from Leyton, East London, was interviewed by Sky News in November last year, having been held in the prison since March 2019. He had been detained with 5,000 other men, most of them foreign nationals, after the last stronghold in the town of Bagouz fell in March 2019. In the interview, he told Sky News that he had been in Syria since 2013 or 2014. He was one of a number of students from the University of Westminster who had travelled to the Islamic State's self-proclaimed caliphate. The British government had, it is understood, stripped him of his British nationality because he is also a national of Algeria. His family, who live in Leyton, moved to the UK from Algeria when he was 5 years old. In line with many other Western countries, the UK government has refused to repatriate adults as prisoners, arguing that they should be put on trial in Syria. However, Kurdish authorities who control northeastern Syria have consistently said they do not have the capability to secure the jail. Over the past few months there have been at least 3 riots and attempted prison breaks at the jail. While the precise circumstances surrounding Mostefawoui's death are not clear, it is understood that he died either during a riot or as part of an escape attempt. Officers from the Metropolitan Police's Counter-Terrorism Command had a file on Mostefaoui and had requested access to the Sky News interview with him. In November, the top Kurdish commander in Syria told Sky News that another terrorist attack in a western city is expected as a consequence of Western inaction and indifference in the region and unwillingness to take responsibility for their nationals. General Mazloum Kobani, commander of the Syrian Democratic Forces, SDF, said, "The danger of the resurgence of IS is very big. And it's a serious danger. I think there are many people who don't know this, but it's true. We repeatedly told Western governments, we have 2 choices for them, to take back their prisoners and put them on trial if they can do so. They have to honor their commitments. Or they set up an international court here, in Syria, because we cannot hold them forever here." The UK government has not commented officially, saying only, since 2011, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office has advised against all travel to Syria. Those who chose to leave the UK and fight for, or support, Daesh, the Islamic State, potentially pose a very serious national security risk. He approached the bars and introduced himself, Ishaq from Leyton in London. Sky News Middle East correspondent Mark Stone on meeting the Londoner in Al-Sina'a prison. "He was the first inmate I met, emerging from a sea of orange boiler-suited men." Ishaq Mostefaoui had been beckoned forward by one of the prison guards. "I was told he spoke English and would be happy to talk to me." It was November 2019. He approached the bars and introduced himself, Ishaq from Leyton in London. "I had not expected he would actually be British. We spoke for about 5 minutes. His opening remark, in an East London accent, was a request, 'Can I make a point about my face being shown? Can you just blur it out if you can?' His death has put a focus back on an untenable situation that Western governments have tried to ignore. "I came here, to Syria, in late 2013 to 2014, he told me through the steel bars. You admit you joined the Islamic State?" I asked. "I was within the Islamic State, under the Islamic State." "Yeah," he replied. "At your own choice?" "Yeah," he said with a nonplussed tone. Mostefaoui was one of about 5,000 prisoners in a ramshackle and insecure jail in the northeastern Syrian town of Hasakah. The prison was established by the Kurdish authorities which control this part of Syria. After the final battle with IS in the town of Bagouz in March 2019, surviving male fighters from 28 different countries were put in the prison. They were nationals of countries who, by and large, chose to forget about them. Rather than judging the prisoners with a due legal process, Western governments judged instead that it was politically impossible, legally impractical as well as risky to bring known IS fighters back to the countries they sought to destroy. Those who chose to leave the UK and fight for, or support, Daesh, IS, potentially pose a very serious national security risk, a UK Foreign Office spokesman told us. The British government argues that those detained in the region are ultimately in the custody of the relevant local authorities who are responsible for the detention facilities. And so, since the spring of 2019, the prison has been the problem of Kurdish guards who have neither the numbers nor the capability to adequately secure the place. More than that though, countries like the UK chose to disown the prisoners. Mostefaoui had his British nationality stripped from him. It is illegal to make a person stateless, but Mostefaoui was born in Algeria. His family moved to the UK when he was 5. And so, legally, the UK was in a position to remove his British nationality because, they could argue, he was still technically an Algerian national. On the face of it, there is logic to this. The argument goes that he chose to join an organization, IS, which sought to destroy a Western, democratic, secular way of life. Bringing men like Mostefaoui back to the UK for a trial would be fraught with legal complications. Successful prosecutions would be difficult because of a lack of permissible evidence. The chances of cases collapsing, and suspects walking free, would be high. The subsequent costs and risks associated with monitoring them would be huge. So leave them in Syria to be someone else's problem? Well, as time has shown, there are huge risks with this too. Some prisoners are known to have escaped. Mostefaoui is thought to have died in an attempted breakout. It is also perfectly probable that they are not all perpetrators. Some may well be victims, duped by the cult. None of them have had their day in court. There are no easy answers for all this. Every option is bad. The same is the case for the foreign wives and children of these fighters. They number some 10,000 and languish in insecure camps not far from the jail. A report released this month by the Center for Global Policy warned, left undealt with, the challenge these children present runs a serious risk of developing from an easily solved welfare issue into a potential security and counter-terrorism issue. It is in European countries' short and long-term interests to take action on the children left behind in a region once held by the vanquished caliphate. Moreover, it is both ethically and legally a certain and necessary course of action. Under international law, children are the responsibility of their home countries, which need to address their future welfare and rehabilitation prospects. Mostefaoui had told me that he had a wife and 2 children who he said were killed in a coalition bombing. He said he had a second wife who survived, but he was unsure where she had ended up. He admitted he was involved in fighting but insisted, "We didn't have anything to do with the Western coalition fighting the Islamic State. We don't have a problem with the coalition. We didn't have problems regarding that. We actually went to help out civilians in Hama, Homs, these areas, and the Syrians over there were trying to push back the regime who were pressing as well." The prisoner told me he thought the Islamic State was now over and he did not believe in what it stands for because they had done a lot of mistakes. He also insisted he was not involved in that when questioned about his cutting off people's heads off in Raqqa, its self-proclaimed capital city. When I told Mostefaoui about recent attacks in the UK such as the Manchester Arena bombing and the London Bridge attack, he said he had not known about them, but condemned them. Was he telling the truth? It is important to watch the interview and hear his tone for a more rounded judgment. He is dead now, but many hundreds of others from countries all around the world are still there in a situation that is unsustainable. Attempts by the Kurdish authorities to set up their own trials have been fraught with difficulties and complicated further by the coronavirus pandemic. More will probably die and more will escape. Last week's attempted breakout, when we believe Mostefaoui was killed, was the latest of many. The local security forces managed to contain it, but only just.
Thanks for watching Universal Information and Entertainment TV. Please like and subscribe our channel for more updated videos, news, information and entertainment. See you in next video. Stay tuned.